Hello, it's Ryan from 2MinuteTennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to give you 3 simple tips to win more singles matches. Let's get right to the footage. We're going to be looking at UCLA versus USC, extremely high-level college singles. Let's check out the footage, and then we'll diagram it on the strategy board.
So as always, let's watch this point in its entirety first. Now, the first tip has to do with when you are the returner. So when you're returning serve, I want you to aim more of your returns right back down the center. I would even say 7 to 8 times out of 10, return back down the center. And you can see he does exactly that. Watch where he hits this ball. He centers it. When you hit the ball back down the center of the court, it gives you margin, right? It gives you the margin you need in case you are slightly off target. You can still hit the ball in, but it also reduces the angle that your opponent has on their next shot. See, if he would have returned right back down the line, then his opponent can easily pull him off the court on the subsequent shot. And since a lot of your opponents are attempting a serve +1, which means trying to do something with that second ball to get you in trouble, right there, the return of the return, if you can return it back down the center, you reduce the chances of them executing properly their serve +1 strategy. Another thing I want to show you, and this is just kind of an off-the-cuff idea that I want to teach you, is notice where the returner is starting and how far back behind the baseline he is, and then watch him move forward and he ends up inside the blue. I want you moving forward when you return serve. I want you move. This is singles, doubles. You've got to get pre-movement. You can see he's back, then he split step. He's actually in the air as the opponent is hitting the ball, and you can see that as the opponent's hitting the ball, and that's the proper timing, by the way. You want to be in the air as your opponent hits so that you're landing just after your opponent hits, and that synchronizes your brain and your feet. Right? It gets your brain reacting exactly when the feet hit the ground, and you can actually move so much faster into position. But move forward into your split step and then move forward into the return. You can see he doesn't just hit in his split step, he also goes forward from his split step. So get pre-movement going into the court. And the last thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to the return to serve is when you move forward into the court, don't stay in the court and move laterally. Recover moving back behind the baseline. I see a lot of amateurs who correctly move forward into the return, but they incorrectly stay inside, no man's land, stay inside the baseline, and they need to recover back behind the baseline. Watch him recover moving back behind the baseline. That's exactly what you need to do. This is a great example of how to return serve effectively, consistently, and reduce the likelihood that your opponent gets you in trouble on the subsequent shot. Now, the second idea I want to show you has to do with when you're coming to the net. So now we're actually going to turn our focus to the player on the other side, the UCLA player. This is USC, this is UCLA. So the USC player hits a down the line slice, which is a little short, and it brings the UCLA player, Red Lucky, inside the baseline. So that's a great time to go to the net. And he actually hits a beautiful, if you look at his technique on his slice backhand, this is just a beautiful technique on the slice backhand. You can see he does the karaoke step. Watch this is just a nice little added tip here. Watch how he brings his back foot behind him. Right? That's actually a way to keep the body sideways when hitting a slice. You can see his chest stays to the side. His non-hitting hand goes back behind him. It's a beautiful technique on a slice, backhand slice approach shot. And also he hits a gorgeous deep approach shot. Look how close that ball lands easily within 2 feet of the baseline. This is a great approach shot. But I want you to watch how relaxed and casual the USC player is when he comes forward. There's really no urgency whatsoever to him coming to the net, and it actually hurts him and his ability to win the point. Watch him hit this approach shot, and watch how he just lightly jogs. I'll try to keep him in the center of the screen, but watch him just jog, and he barely gets past the service line. he really needed to get so much farther in, closer to the net. When you're coming forward, when you just barely, and you can see this, he's just barely getting past the service line. When you're barely past the service line, there is way too much court down the line and cross court to pass you, or even for the opponent to dip the ball at your feet, which is what I call the two-shot passing shot strategy, where you hit the ball close to your opponent's feet first, then they pop it up short, and then you come in for the pass. But by him staying back and not closing off the net, almost like he's afraid of a lob, all he's doing is inviting a passing shot either direction. And this is exactly what happens. He gets beaten by the cross-court pass. He is literally nowhere near. He doesn't even reach his racket for this ball. And that's because he didn't close off the net. Just like a soccer goalie, an ice hockey goalie, lacrosse goalie, when you move forward, you cut off angle. And so moving forward would have given him a much easier chance of putting his racket on that ball and then just volleying it into the open court. Now, the last thing I want to show you has to do with the passing shot. So I'm a big fan of down the line passing shots. I've made that very clear in many videos I've made in the past on single strategy. And it's because most of your opponents do not split step, right? So high level college singles players are going to split step. And you can see him split step. Watch the player in blue. Watch him make this split step. Most amateur players I see who come to the net do not split step, which means they're not going to be able to move laterally to cut off that down the line pass. What happens is they usually get too tight to the net without a split step. Getting tight to the net is good, but you got a split step. So when they get tight to the net, the down the line passing shot usually does the trick. But if you are going to attempt a cross-court passing shot, it is really important that you make the ball land near the side tee. And if you know what I mean by the side tee is where the singles line hits the service line. Singles line hits the service line. I want you to watch where this passing shot lands. And it lands exactly there. It lands in the corner of the service box. When you're going to hit a cross-court passing shot, that is where you need it to land. Here's the reason. Usually your opponent should be getting tight to the net. And if you try to make your ball land deep, the way it travels, it'll be too close to the net player, and they can actually just reach their racket out without even moving and then hit the ball into the open court. So what you want to do is dip the ball with topspin and make it land near the side tee. That keeps the ball farther away from the player at net, and they're not going to be able to reach it. So now let's watch this point in its entirety again. I want you to take notice of the returner moving into the return and hitting it back down the center of the court. I want you to notice when this player doesn't get tight enough to the net when he approaches. And I want you to notice when this player hits that sharp cross-court passing shot that lands near the side tee.
So a big thank you goes over to Matt Lin for allowing me to use that footage. I've put his channel in the description below. He has awesome college and pro footage, so definitely check it out. So when you are returning serve, return serve in singles more often down the middle than any other direction. So when the serve comes to you, this is you, return it back down the center. Have margin on both sides. It also reduces the angle your opponent has on their subsequent shot. But one little detail here is try to get pre-movement. So let's say you want to, based on the opponent's serve and your reaction time and where you feel comfortable standing, hitting the return. Let's say your opponent has you comfortable here when you're returning serve. So if you're here, comfortable returning serve, then what you want to do is start here. And then as the serve comes in to you, you're kind of meeting it forward head on, and you're getting your momentum going into that return. You don't want to be returning while moving backward or stationary. You want your body weight going into that shot. No different than punching, right? Or throwing a ball. You want your weight going into that shot. So that's why you see the pros and high-level college players using pre-movement getting into the shot. So when you return back down the center, and then quickly recover back to the center of the court, and then you've neutralized the point. The opponent doesn't have an advantage now on their subsequent shot. Now, the second idea had to do with when a player is going to the net to close off the net to cover the angle both cross court and down the line. So this player, a couple shots later, we saw him hit a great deep approach shot to his opponent's backhand side. But we also saw him take his time coming in, and he barely got past the service line. That is just simply not close enough. I know a lot of players, amateur players, recreational players, are afraid of being lobbed, but only 1 out of 3 lobs are going to hurt you, right? So a third of the lobs aren't high enough or deep enough and you can slam it away. Another third go way out. And we actually only remember that third where it goes over our heads. And some of those we can even run back, by the way. But so don't let the minority of the shots that your opponents hit when they try a lob be the majority of your memory. Like, that's not how you want to remember that, because then it deters you from actually getting tight enough to the net and winning a lot of points. So you've got to get tighter to the net. And so with him being here, there was way too much room cross court for the pass. So what you want to do is you want to get tighter to the net. You'll also notice it's slightly on the same side as the opponent. When you come to the net, don't go right to the center. You need to be slightly on the same side of your opponent, because that's bisect, and this is what I call shadowing, right? So if your opponent's over here, you're over here. You're like a shadow. You're following them. So you want to be slightly on the side because you bisect their down the line and cross court shot. What he did by staying farther back, he could still cover the down the line, right? He's the same distance from the down the line, whether he's up or back. He's the same distance. But remember, there's a cross court passing shot. There's an angle here. So by being closer up, he's closer to that cross court pass. But by being farther back, he is way too far away. You have to make sure that when you are moving forward into the court, that you close off the net, just like a soccer goalie, just like an ice hockey goalie, field hockey goalie, lacrosse goalie. By moving forward, you shrink how much room is on either side. Yes, I understand that you're going to get lobbed. I totally get it. But your goal isn't to win every point when you come to the net. Your goal is to win more points than you lose. And as long as you're winning more points than you lose when you come to the net, it's a positive outcome. Like, that's exactly what you want. And then the last idea was where your cross-court passing shots need to go. I'm not sure if recreational players understand the difference between where a down-the-line pass can land and where a cross-court passing shot can land. So if you notice where I have this cross-court shot, when you hit a cross-court passing shot, you need it to land by the side tee. Because if you try to make it land deep in the court, then the way the ball travels, it's too close to the opponent. Even if they are farther back, it's still much closer to them. This distance right here, that's how much closer the ball is. So, and typically the ball doesn't go past them. They just move over one step and they volley it into the court, whether they're here, and especially if they're here. They don't even have to move, and they literally volley it into the open court. So when you go for the passing shot, make sure that you are aiming for this side tee. I would even take, in your next tennis lesson, ask your pro, hey, can you feed me some balls, both on the backhand side and forehand side, and I want to aim in the service box near the side tee so I can practice my cross-court pass. Don't hit passing shots cross-court deep. You can do that down the line. You can hit deep and short on a down-the-line pass. You cannot hit deep cross-court typically and get it past your opponent. You've got to put some spin on it and dip it short in the service box. You start copying these 3 ideas. Hit your return of serve down the middle. When you come to the net, close off the net to cut off angle. And when you hit your passing shots, hit them short in the service box. You copy those 3 tips. There is no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.